Good day, fellow Jersey Nerds, and welcome to episode 92 of the Jersey Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and today on the Nerdcast, I'm going solo, but we're still going to be talking about the Heritage Classic jerseys that we saw from both Calgary and Winnipeg. We got the St. Louis Blues Commemorative jersey, a bit of a fluffed up name, but we'll get into that. And also we'll just take a final look at the Edmonton Oilers third jersey. So we've got the official release. We've seen the official photos, and we'll just recap it and wrap it up and see if our thoughts have changed. And then I'll wrap it up with Throwback Throwdown. But it is currently the NHL preseason. One of the things that I like about the preseason is that you just get to see different things. And it's kind of funny to me because the preseason isn't, a lot of the details aren't recorded, and for good reason. Nobody really remembers the preseason. It's all just exhibition and practice, and teams are still trying to find out, and nothing should count. And so for that reason, most of it isn't on the record. But I do enjoy when you do get the odd things, such as this past week, we had Florida and Nashville playing the rare doubleheader. They played 2 split squad games. Now, I've seen it before, and it happens a lot in the preseason, especially at the beginning of the preseason, where teams will do a split squad game. Let's take, for instance, Calgary and Edmonton. They'll do 2 split squad games on the same night, but one is in Calgary and one is in Edmonton. What Florida and Nashville did was actually do a legitimate doubleheader in Nashville. So they still had a split squad, 2 split squad games, but they were both in Nashville. So the first one started at about 4:30 Eastern time, and then the second one went off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So just those little cool different things I think are kind of neat about the preseason. The charm and the excitement of the preseason wears off pretty quickly for me, but something like a doubleheader, like that'd be pretty cool. Like if tickets were offered at a lower rate because you're seeing essentially 4 lower rate teams, that would be a good way to spend an evening. Get off work a little early, head on down to the rink, and just, I don't know, what's a fair ticket? $15-20 for that to catch a doubleheader game at an NHL rink? I think that'd be pretty cool. Something else interesting that happened during the preseason this past week, a game between Toronto and Ottawa held in St. John's, Newfoundland at the Growlers rink. And they used the ECHL nets, the blue nets. It was really interesting to see that presented in an NHL atmosphere. So TSN was there to broadcast the game. And so you got these blue nets in HD quality, 4K quality, whatever you want to watch it as. But it was just kind of interesting to see it. And of course you got the scoffing at it by some of the announcers because it's a little bit gimmicky, but that's the ECHL. They got to find ways to generate revenue. So I think Geico puts their sponsorship all over the nets, and that's why they're blue. So it's something different that the ECHL likes to do, and it was cool to see it during an NHL presentation. So just a couple things that I know during the preseason. I always like when fun and interesting stuff happens, and it also adds a little bit to it because these things usually aren't recorded and are just lost to time, and nobody remembers these kind of things. I guess one of the biggest preseason memories from past years is Dallas and Florida played each other, I think in London, Ontario, and both teams ended up bringing their white jerseys, and they just said, yep, we're going to go ahead and play it anyway. And then I think there was even a game in Florida where the glass behind the net broke. This might not have even been preseason, but where the glass behind the net broke and they put up a big wood board, and anybody who had seats behind the net, we'll just move you. Pay no attention to the wood board behind the net. But anyways, just some musings there about the preseason. It's always interesting to see what happens and what's kind of brushed aside because no one really thinks too much of the preseason. Let's get into our jersey talk for today. We do have a lot to cover. All right, so we're going to start with the Heritage Classic jerseys before we get to the St. Louis Blues Commemorative jersey. And even before that, just before I really dive into the Calgary and Winnipeg jerseys, I put up a poll on Twitter about which release people were more interested in this past weekend. And the choices were Heritage Classic jerseys or the St. Louis Blues jerseys. And the St. Louis Blues jerseys won with about 60% of the vote. And it seemed to be that most people were just interested because they were expecting something new, and that's why it was the more anticipated reveal. But now that we've seen what we got, whereas if you look at the weekend, I guess the only new thing that we saw was the Edmonton Oilers' third jersey. It'd be interesting to see what people thought of the reveals and just what was more favorable after it all came out. But we're going to start with 2019 Heritage Classic jerseys. Calgary and Winnipeg going to be playing this game in Regina, Saskatchewan. Calgary started off the morning by revealing their original white jersey with the red yoke, with the striping on the arm. It's a red stripe outlined in yellow and then outlined in thin red. If you haven't seen the jerseys, they're available on jerseynerdspodcast.com, or you can just simply click the link in the show notes for this episode. One thing that I didn't care too much about the jersey looks fantastic. It's a great choice, and I think it's what we all expected, and that was fine. They didn't try and Calgary and Adidas didn't try and go away from that or didn't try and swerve us or anything. I think this is what people pretty much expected from the announcement of the game. And so they just went ahead with it and said, okay, yes, here they are. Here's these beautiful jerseys. And a lot of people seem to be fairly positive about it. But from the reveal, what drove me nuts is the image that Adidas provided. It's the retail authentic version. And so the numbers on the jersey look like that old Reebok shoulder patch plastic material. I almost want to call it sublimated on twill, but that may not be. I don't think that's twill. That's more like a plastic. So the numbers look really plastic and cheap, almost like it's a screen print that's been stitched on. And when Adidas provided such high quality photos, you can really tell, and it really shows. And they didn't do that on the St. Louis jerseys, the photos of the St. Louis jerseys that they took. Maybe it's the same material, but you can easily identify the 3 layers in the numbers, not for the Calgary and Winnipeg photos. So I thought that was kind of the only detraction from the whole release. Overall, great looking jersey. Like I said, we expected it and they gave it to us. And for the most part, everyone's pretty happy. Again, Calgary's done a good job of using the Adidas collar, which can really get in the way of the throwback jerseys, I find. So they just, instead of making a mess, just quiet down the collar, use it the best they can, because that's what you get from Adidas. They've done a really great job with using the accurate style numbers. And I was looking at the captain's patch, and it's just a bit wider, block C, which is incredibly accurate. I think that looks fantastic. And then again, they provided us with lots of photos, especially of the ones it looks like 2 players kind of playing out in the middle of winter, a little pond hockey, wearing the jerseys. You don't really see the players' faces, which is okay. It's focused on the jerseys, and I thought that was a neat set of photos and a really cool set to include in the release. So overall, the Calgary jersey is fantastic. It makes people want to say, oh, I'd love to see Calgary bring these back full time. And I get it, but I think it's just people in love with the retro style currently. I think over time, after a while, people would be like, oh, okay, it's time to move on. So I'm not fully on board with, bring these back, but I would like to see some sort of inspired jersey. So a jersey inspired by these original jerseys as Calgary's full-time set, because I think Calgary's right there as one of the teams that just needs a complete rebrand in the NHL, or not a complete rebrand, but completely new-looking jerseys, because the ones they have are not working. So overall, I give it an 8.5. How can I possibly rate it low? A 9 out of 10 seems a little high. I kind of want to reserve a high rating like that for new material. This is what it's supposed to be, though. It's well executed. It looks beautiful. The whole jersey matchup looks beautiful. So I think an 8.5, maybe even a 8.75, let's give it that, out of 10 would be appropriate for this jersey. Moving further east in Canada to the Winnipeg Jets, and we got a navy colored jersey, WHA style. If you want to take a look at it, if you haven't seen it yet, again, there's a link in the show notes, or you can head on over to jerseynerdspodcast.com and check out the episode 92 show notes. Again, here with the photos, we got I'll call them sub-twill numbers, the plastic style single layer numbers. There's lots of people who will crest it. Just find the time, or do what you did with the St. Louis jersey, which is layer this stuff. It just looked really cheap. And it makes me wonder, is this the default? I've seen this from Adidas before, this style material. And is that the default that we get on the jerseys? I'm always afraid to order from NHL Shop Online because you never know when you're going to get these single layer plastic style numbers. They're awful. It completely ruins an already way too expensive jersey. So those are making me mad, and it's not actually going to be part of the jersey. So it's not too much to get hung up on. But for the highly detailed photos that you gave us, I really wish there would have been some nice, clean, crisp, properly twilled numbers there. That would have looked nice. It also would have been nice to see them. Maybe they attempted the 3-color collar, like how the Heritage jersey, when they did it in the Reebok version, it was a 3-color collar, the white one I'm talking about. And with the move to Adidas, they've just gone with pretty much a single color collar, the red collar. But it would have been nice to see them attempt the 3-color collar. Perhaps it didn't work. Perhaps they tried it. But that kind of adds to the charm and the retroness of the jersey. So would have liked to have seen that. But the collar that they're using is fine. I like how they do the trim in the navy so it thins out the actual collar. That looked pretty cool. The jersey looks clean. The colors are fantastic. The navy, the red, the white, they all work together. And this really runs the risk of looking like a Rangers jersey, but it doesn't. It doesn't look like a Rangers jersey. It looks like a Jets jersey. And there's going to be no mistaking it, or I didn't see any comments of, oh, that looks like the Rangers, which always seems to happen with new logos and new jerseys. So that looks pretty cool. Definitely, this is a jersey that I want to add to my collection. It looks fantastic. And the kind of chain stitching that they do in the logo that they've done on the previous 2 white versions, Reebok and Adidas, that looks super cool. So that's another great feature of the jersey. And again, the photos, it's included in the whole set of the 2 players appearing to play pond hockey. That's fantastic. Both Calgary and Winnipeg provided websites to just go over the points of the jersey. I don't think that takes too much effort, and I believe these teams have people on staff that would enjoy building those kind of websites, or those web pages. So, again, good job by Calgary and Winnipeg there. I do like Winnipeg's jersey a little bit better than Calgary, so I'll say 8.9 out of 10, sticking with my parameters that I said of not wanting to give a retro jersey a 9 or higher. So 8.9 out of 10 for Winnipeg, 8.75 out of 10 for Calgary. This is going to be a great looking game. Hopefully they wear them a couple more times just to kind of, show the home fans, because this really isn't a home game for either team. And then they can be put away for a while. Let's just keep them as special retro jerseys. We will be right back, and we'll be talking about the St. Louis Blues commemorative jersey. The Jersey Nerds podcast is brought to you in part by Gord's Bait and Tackle. For more than 40 years, Gord's Bait and Tackle has been supplying the Kawarthas and surrounding area with all their bait and tackle needs. Their expert staff provides hands-on personal guidance to help anglers find the equipment they need. They're committed to helping sportsmen of all abilities experience the thrill of catching the big one. Gord's Bait and Tackle, north on the 115, just past Highway 35. We're back here on the Jersey Nerds podcast. It's time to get into the St. Louis Blues commemorative jersey. This was the jersey that people were looking forward to this past weekend. the big reveal, and it seemed unanimous across the board. Maybe not unanimous. It seemed that the most popular opinion was that we were going to get a new jersey. They called it a commemorative jersey. There's no, on initial thought, there's no indication that there's going to be a rehash or a throwback, or it should be titled a throwback or a heritage or a retro jersey. Calling it a commemorative jersey just seemed to be an effort to throw us off the trail, which people do not like to be made fun of. They do not like to be made to seem to be a fool. And there was a bit of that here. So maybe that's where a little bit of my negativity will come from. But this is retro for retro's sake. I didn't know we wanted this jersey to come back. There's other jerseys that St. Louis has worn that could have come back, but it's very interesting that they chose this one. It wasn't even around for that long. I think it had a 4-5 year run with St. Louis, and now we're bringing it back for 3 games this year. Hopefully that's it. 3 games, put it back in the closet. Like I said with Calgary and Winnipeg, after this season, 3 games, then put it back in the closet. Don't keep bringing it back each year. And that's just my own personal opinion. What's going to drive how many times this jersey is worn is jersey sales. If jersey sales are incredible, then they're going to wear them again to try and sell more jerseys. So that's just me being an old man, and just, retro is special because it doesn't happen that often. And I think it's important to recognize when you're asking for too much of something, and that's hard for anybody to recognize in themselves. But if you ask for it too much and you start getting it all the time, it doesn't become special. It just becomes another thing. So I think we can fall into the trap with these retro jerseys of asking for them full time. And then once they come out, they're just another thing. They're not so special anymore. So let's try and keep these retro jerseys special and only see them 3 times a year. But St. Louis, I don't know why this is a commemorative jersey other than it commemorates the 90s, which seems pretty weak. I wish they would have just called it a throwback or a retro jersey. So the jersey itself is well executed, and I'm glad that they're only wearing it 3 times. I'm glad it's not going to be like, oh, we're wearing the retro 8 times and the alternate 8 times, and then we'll have another sweater swap, 5 more sweater swap games. What's the point on even having designated jerseys? Which I like. I like designated jerseys. Not a fan of the NBA system. So again, this jersey's well executed. It looks exactly as close as it can be to the 90s jersey. I like what they did with the Adidas collar here. It looks like a big yellow collar, just as it did on the 90s. I'm sure this jersey is going to drive retailers nuts. You need 3 different size numbers just for the back alone. You need a left number, which is smaller than a right number. That's for 2-digit numbers. And then you need another size for single-digit numbers, because that's going to be a different size because that's in the middle of the jersey. And then you're going to need your sleeve numbers. So if you're not in the St. Louis area or getting this jersey already crested, I think it'll be hard to find someone who does accurate cresting. There are people out there who do have style guides, so they do a good job. Check out keenerjerseys.com. There's always coolhockey.com. They do a pretty good job. I think icejerseys.com. That's another one. They have their style guides. They know what they're doing. But if you go out from that, you're risking quite a bit there. So it's not a jersey I wanted to see. It's really well executed, though. Hopefully it goes away after this year. So I'll give this one 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair rating. And also because we weren't led to believe that we were getting something new, but we certainly weren't led to believe that we were getting a throwback or a retro jersey. So 7 out of 10 for the St. Louis Blues commemorative jersey. Going to be worn 3 times during the 2019-2020 season. And now let's finally wrap up the Edmonton Oilers third jersey. It leaked a few weeks ago, but then we got the official reveal. We got the great photos from Adidas. Adidas, I love that you're doing these photos. These are great on, you know, the textured background, the wood background, or the brick background, or the gray background, whatever you want to call it. The photos are great. As long as they're big photos and we can kind of zoom in and see some details, that's pretty cool. Again, we got a video from Edmonton. I believe we got a web page as well. So it's still not a great alternate. We've seen that it has larger numbers. They don't seem to be quite as big as Stadium Series numbers. I think that helps the jersey a little bit, but not enough to make it any better than what I rated it before. The idea of just going with the two colors, I applaud them for trying out a new idea. I just don't think it's hitting the mark, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So we'll just have to accept what we have. Maybe it goes away after 2 or 3 years. But Edmonton tried something. It doesn't seem that it's going to work. The numbers help. Some people suggested that maybe it could use white, but then you just get away from the whole idea of the jersey, and now it's just a random jersey. There's no focus. So clearly it has an idea. It's not working for me. It doesn't seem to be working for a lot of people. There are a few people who are going to enjoy it, and maybe over time it'll grow on me. It's doubtful, but maybe over time. So nothing to really improve this jersey from what it was. I forget what I rated it back when it leaked. Let's say after seeing the numbers, I think it's worth, I'll give it a 5 out of 10 today. Not having reviewed my old rating and just thinking off the top of my head, but 5 out of 10 to wrap up the Edmonton Oilers' third jersey. Let's get to our Throwback Throwdown matchup. Throwback Throwdown returning this week is our defending champion, the 2002 LA Kings black jersey. If you want to see this jersey, click the link in the show notes or head on over to jerseynerdspodcast.com. You can see the jersey over there. The opponent is the original San Jose Sharks 1992 teal jersey. This is a great looking jersey. You can see it at the links I just gave previously. I'm sure most of you know what these jerseys look like anyways. Looking at the San Jose jersey, teal jersey, gray stripes on the arm and the hem, which are outlined in black and then outlined in white. This had a block font, but a very thin kind of stretched out block font. Almost if you could simplify the Boston Red Sox numbers, that's kind of what I think the original San Jose Sharks numbers looked like. So really cool jersey. I tried to put together something here that would be a very tough matchup, but also kind of had a theme to it, which is the California theme going here. I was surprised by the results. I'm not going to place a vote this week. I don't have other co-hosts here joining me. So we're going to go exclusively with the reader poll and or the listener poll, whatever you want to call it. And this goes up on Twitter at the end of the week, around Thursday or Friday every week. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at Jersey Nerds Pod to have your say on the Throwback Throwdown poll. So the results this week were 91% in favor of the original San Jose Sharks teal jersey. It crushed the LA Kings jersey. I really thought this would be a much closer vote, but you guys love the San Jose jersey. I love it too, but again, I really thought this would be a closer vote. So LA has been dethroned. San Jose is our new champion, and they will be back next week to take on a brand new challenger. And again, that poll will be up on Twitter. Look for it this weekend and follow us on Twitter at Jersey Nerds Pod, or you can always head on over to jerseynerdspodcast.com, and the poll is also posted there. Pardon me. That is what we have for you this week. Again, great reveals from Calgary and Edmonton, just kind of straightforward, and they gave you all the great details, all the great photos. It's what we expected. So it's just a really great, solid, clean-looking game. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to, at some point, adding that Winnipeg jersey to my collection. For the St. Louis jersey, again, unfortunate that it wasn't something new. I think we all just kind of assumed it would be, which I suppose is on us for assuming, but we got the 90s retro jersey. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but let's just do it. There's going to be people out there who love it, and then let's put them away. I think that's the big thing. Keep them special by putting them away after this and not keep going back to the well. So as far as retro jerseys go, this is a good chance for me to kind of say the system that I would like to see. And I think it would be cool to feature one game a month on a Wednesday or a Saturday, whichever game you get a lot of eyeballs on. And it's advertised as the retro game of the week. And you don't want the same teams repeating every month, but these are the teams, and they're doing a retro jersey this month. And they get to do the full reveal, just like Calgary, Winnipeg, and St. Louis and Edmonton have done this past week. And it's still a revenue generator for these teams with these retro jerseys. You know, people should be televised nationally. People are going to be paying attention to it and just promote it as the retro game of the week. One each month, I guess, except in April. Don't need one in April. Just do one March, February, January, blah, 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 so on. But that would be my idea. And you don't want repeats. That should be at least 5-7 years before you even think about repeating, but you don't need a lot of repeats. And I think that would be a cool retro system. It wouldn't oversaturate. It would keep people wanting more and more and more. And that's the idea. You don't want people to get content with the idea of retro jerseys. I think that happens. I want to say that happens in baseball a little bit, maybe not too much, but I always find that there's too many different jerseys in baseball and basketball. So it doesn't become a special thing. I think in hockey, we still have that, and it's not something that I want to go away. I don't know if people share my opinion on that, but that's just where I would like to see retro jerseys go. So be sure to subscribe to the Jersey Nerds podcast. Leave us a like or a rating. It helps get us noticed. And you can also find us anytime on Twitter, like I mentioned, at Jersey Nerds Pod. You can email us anytime with questions. Good questions we'll read on the podcast. So email us, jerseynerdspodcast@gmail.com. If you have a comment or just something you'd like to hear on the podcast, let us know. Drop us a line. And you can visit the website anytime, jerseynerdspodcast.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this week. Goodbye, fellow Jersey Nerds.